Hey guys, welcome back to Denizen scripting tutorials. This video is going to cover the mystery that is the tag system in Denizen. I've gotten probably 100 questions about what tags are and how to use them. Probably one of the most common questions brought up in the Denizen IRC chat room, and I'd say the video is long overdue. I took a little bit of time to try to make sure I do this properly. I laid out an outline so we can cover all the information in a timely fashion. So I'm just going to get right into it. So the question that I want to cover is, what is a tag? You've seen tags used a lot in Denizen. They're what you see in commands and scripts when you have some sort of information between these brackets. And on a basic level, what a tag is it's dynamic information that Denizen gets from Minecraft and then can utilize the information in the script. So the key thing to keep in mind is a lot of the tags that you're going to use in a script at any given point are going to be extremely dynamic. They're going to be changing. It can be a location, it could be IDs of entities, it could be the name of an entity, it could be the item a player's holding. Any of these tags that you use, you're going to, there's a possibility that they change, and that's what makes them important. And to understand what a tag is, we need to talk about what objects are. In Minecraft, everything's an object. Everything. This stair block is a block object. This grass block is a grass object. This NPC is NPC object. I'm a player object. The world is a world object. Everything is an object. And it's kind of hard to wrap your head around when you're not familiar with programming, but every object has a set of information. So this block has an item ID, an item data value, which determines what it is. It also has a location. It has all that information in the object of itself, each thing. So let's take, for example, we're going to just use an in-game command right now. We're just going to do narrate item in. So this is your first tag, and all it's going to do is tell me what's in my hand, and currently it's a grass block. So you'll see right here that I get I at grass. So what that tag did, and what we're going to cover a little bit more in depth, is this whole section in the command was replaced with I at grass. So in this case, the I at grass is the grass object that I'm holding. And the I at symbol is what Denizen calls an object fetcher. So that tells Denizen that when it sees I at, that it is getting a grass object. So that's more important when you are using if you use the give command, you want to use I at grass, you want to give 10 grass. So now I have 10 additional grass. And that's so Denizen knows to grab the item, which is what the I stands for, grab the item object of grass. And you could change this to stone, and then you'll get 10 stone. So that's an object fetcher is always going to be denoted with an and sign, just like it is here. And the value in front of it's going to change depending on what kind of object you are trying to fetch. Common ones would be, if I narrate the player location, you'll see the full location object, which is extremely precise, as you'll see by these extra decimal points. But it starts with L at, which denotes that this whole thing is a location object. Another example would be if I just narrate my player object, which is player. And it returns P at Jeebus. That's a player object. So that's going to bring me into my next point, is that basic player tag is going to be associated with every single interact script that you have. In addition to that, there's also an NPC tag. Let me put these in quotes. And what we'll do is we'll do the player object, and then we'll do the NPC object. And every interact script has a player object and an NPC object because there's always a NPC assigned to the script and a player who is interacting with the NPC. So in this case, it's just telling me the NPC I've selected because I'm doing it from console here. But there will always be those two tags included in every interact script you do. It's important to note that when you have a world script or when you're using task scripts and such, there's instances where you won't have a player or an NPC object attached to the script. Anytime that it is feasible, a Denizen will automatically add a player or an NPC association with the script. So anytime that it can, it's often you'll see it in world events. Like if you have a player-based world event, it's not going to be like context.player. It's going to be just player, just like that, like you would use it in any other script. So every interact script will have a player object and will have an NPC object. And now, by themselves, they're not particularly useful on the surface, but the next thing we need to learn here is what we call the attributes of an object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this guy right here as an example, and I'm going to right now I have him just chatting a basic string. So I click him and he says hello. Pretty simple. What I want him to do is say hello to me specifically. So I can take my player object and then fetch my name. So I add the attribute .name. So when Denizen parses over this, it's going to start with player and realize it's talking about the player object associated with the script, and then it's going to say we want the name. So if I save this and I reload the scripts, and then I talk to him, all of a sudden it replaces it with my name. Now what you can't do is just use the player tag without the .name, because then it's going to return the player object and not the name associated with the player object. So that's going to be your most simple tag. What you can also add is the NPC's name, like so. So that's pretty straightforward. This NPC is named Adventurer. Because of what I'm doing, having him sit, you don't see his name. I'm still working on that. That's just kind of a little preview of what's to come. But his name's Adventurer, and that information is brought through this tag. Now, the interesting thing about this, and this is where we were talking about them being dynamic, is if I assign this same script to any of these NPCs over here, doesn't matter who, npc.name is going to return that NPC's name. It's not always going to say Adventurer, as if I were to hard code in here, I am an adventurer. So that's where tags are useful. They change. They're not constants. The next thing to cover is what are all the attributes? How are you supposed to know them all? Well, the simple answer is I don't think anyone knows them all. But the most helpful resource for finding the attributes you want is going to be an IRC bot that Bitmonkey has created. So if I open up IRC, I use IRC Cloud. If I open it up here, and I've showed this at least 6 times now, but if you search with the tag command, you can search player.name, and it will give you all the information on the player.name tag. Returns the name of the player. Well, if you want to look at all the player attributes, all of a sudden you have all of these options, and that's just players. If I do the same thing with NPC tags, NPCs have all of these attributes. Well, not all of these, because this is confusing. It has all of these ones down here. So you're going to essentially need to search for things as you need them, but once you understand how objects and attributes work together, you'll have a better idea of how to search for them, and you're not going to just be blindly searching. That being said, let me close this, and we'll go back to the game here. So let's do a couple of examples here to show that they're dynamic. We're going to take player.name and make it player.location.symbol. So player.location by itself will return the location object of the player. In this case, it's going to give the exact location object of myself in game. It's not particularly readable, and because of that, we have a .simple which is an attribute of a location object. And .simple just gets rid of the decimals and makes it cleaner to look at so that we can see some variation. Let me get rid of the hello here, that's a little confusing. Alright, so if I reload the scripts and I right click them, it says where I'm at. That's my current location. If I step over here, click them, you'll see that the 5 is changed to a 6. If I jump up here on the table and click them, I'll see that a couple different coordinates changed. If I'm way off over here, you'll see again that these coordinates are changing. So we're using the same script, no matter where I'm at, the tag is not going to return the same thing unless I'm standing in the same spot and click them over and over again. And I get the same one. So that's a basic example to show you how tags change what they return. So a practical example is there's the strike command. Now what we could do is say we want to strike, we'll just use an example from here. We want to strike L at -182, 71, 345, and in the world. What happened here? This is supposed to be L at. Alright, so we're using the strike command, and we're using a location object, and the contents of the object is this set of coordinates. So when I use that, I step away so I don't zap myself. I right click him, you'll see it strikes the same spot every time I click him, because this location object corresponds with that spot on the ground, just like that. But every time I click him, it strikes the same place. That's no fun. So if we want to make this dynamic, we can do player.location. So that's going to return the player's location object. And since we're not trying to read the actual coordinates, you don't need the .simple. You just need to get the location object from the player object. So we'll go through here, we'll reload. Now it's zapping me. And no matter where I'm standing, it zaps me and not that same spot over and over again. If I'm over here, I still get zapped. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm still getting zapped each time. You can tell by the fire on the ground. And that's all with this one script and using a dynamic tag. That's a practical example. You can use the location of the player to affect something in game. Another really common use of the tag system is in the if command. And we've touched on the if command before, and it's not something I want to go fully in depth with right now, but to use it as an example, we can start off by narrating this basic tag. Well, I guess it's slightly complicated. We're going to take the player location, and then we're going to do distance. We're going to do it like this. So we've taken the player object, we're going to get the location tag, location object, and then we want to use this tag to determine the distance this location is to another location. And in this case, we're going to use npc.location. While this looks complicated, all this is going to do is return how far away the player.location is from the npc.location. And if you're familiar with your order of operations from math class, Denizen always does the interior tags first and works its way to the exterior tags. So when this parses over this narrate, it's going to replace npc.location with the location object of the NPC, and then it's going to replace this entire tag with the distance that the player location object is from the NPC location object. So let's give that a test run. So from here, I am 2.8879 blah 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 blocks from the NPC. If I step over here, I'm 5 blocks. If I get real close, I'm 1.2 blocks. If I'm over here, I'm 4.1. Now what we can do is, going back to the if statement I mentioned, we can change this to an if, So we're saying if this tag, which returns the distance between the two locations, if that location is less than 2 blocks, we're going to chat hello, and then else we'll chat come closer. So we're just telling Denizen that if we're within 2 blocks of the NPC to say hello, and if not, tell us to come closer. So we'll go ahead and reload that, and we'll start off far away. So it's telling me to come closer, and if we look in the debug here, the tag was replaced with 4.45, so it's greater than 2. So if I get close to the NPC, it says hello, because we'll look here, the tag was replaced with 1.35, and which is less than 2, and now it'll say hello. So that's an example of how to use the tag in an if statement. I think my next video is going to cover the if statement more in depth, so you understand how to use it better, but that's a basic usage of a tag in an if statement. And that really covers the basics of what a tag is and how to use them. There are more complicated tags that you can use. There's math tags, there's all kinds of other crazy stuff. And I'll try to compile enough information for a second video on tags, but for your general usage, you'll have these options that we've covered. And player tags, NPC tags, and entity tags are really what a lot of people use. The location stuff. I mean, if we go back into here real quick and we search, location tags, there's just dozens of them, and you're able to get all kinds of fun information. And like you can get the material from a location, you can get the contents of a sign at a location. You can get the inventory if the location's like a chest or something. And those are all different objects that you can get in the game and expand upon and use in your commands to make scripts handle all kinds of situations and not just one specific hard-coded situation. And there's a couple key points I want to reiterate. Tags themselves return information from the game, and most of the time tags return an object for you to use in a Denizen script, but also often return information about the object. So like the npc.location returns the location object. The .location is an attribute of the NPC object, and you use attributes in chains inside of tags, just like this one right here, npc.location, and you use that to get information about the object. Not all attributes will apply to every object. There's a lot of specific ones. I mean, you could do npc.id, but if you do player.id, players don't have IDs. NPCs have an NPC ID, which npc.id will return. And just for the sake of it, let's do that. So we'll go ahead and load this in here so you have an example. So this tag returns 28. If I switch NPC with player and properly reload, all of a sudden we get a null because player.id doesn't exist. There is no ID attribute for a player. So keep that in mind, that just because you've used an attribute elsewhere doesn't mean it's going to apply to a given object. And lastly, like I said, it's almost impossible for you to memorize every attribute out there and every object. So definitely utilize the monkey bot that McMonkey's created. He also has a website. If you do tags all, sorry, my computer's running a bit slow, we can open that up and it'll literally list off every tag available to you. But that's extremely confusing, but you can search on this website just like you search in the game. For those who don't, or not in the game, in the chat. But for those of you who don't want to use IRC, there's the website. That really covers the basics. If you have any more questions, definitely ask them. You can post in the comments, you can come in the Denizen chat room. I try to reply to all the comments that have questions as soon as I can. I know a lot of people are, actively scripting and run into a problem and I need to answer real quick. So yeah, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys coming back. There's a noticeable amount of people who are watching every video. The analytics on the videos are doing extremely well, and I'm glad that it's helping you guys. But I really need you guys to subscribe so that I get a better idea of how many people are actively watching the videos. So if you're really enjoying what I'm doing, go ahead and subscribe to to let me know that people are still interested in everything. And with that, I'm going to go. Watch out for my next video. I'm probably going to do a video on the if statement, and I'm sure that's going to help a lot of you.